Good morning, everyone. In August of 2018, I took a leap of faith to travel from India to the United States to pursue a degree in Master of Science in Integrated Digital Media at the New York University. Within 10 days of arriving in the country, I signed a residential lease for a room in a 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn, New York. There was nothing special about this apartment, just that it was within a 25-minute walk from my campus. On a good weather day, I could really walk to my campus. Apart from the rent, electricity and the heat was included in the rent, and the lease agreement was fairly simple, favoring the landlord. It was drafted by them. During my move-in day, one of my friends was helping me, and they got an opportunity to speak with 2 students who used to live before I moved in the apartment. Those 2 students told my friend that this is not a kind of an apartment that a student wants to live in, and there were unjust deductions from their security deposit. When my friend told me this, I didn't pay a lot of heed because I had already signed the lease and I was more interested in settling in. On the same night, I locked myself out of the apartment because I wasn't used to the idea of auto-locking doors. Even the Airbnb that I was staying at did not have auto-locking doors. There were 2 rooms in the apartment. I took one of the rooms. The second room was taken by the daughter of the landlord. Sadly, on that night, the daughter of the landlord was not there at home, and I have locked myself out. Neither did the landlord or the daughter of the landlord came that night or till the next afternoon to help me get into the apartment. So I spent a great part of that night on the staircase or before I decided to go to my friend's apartment, thanks to the ride that he booked. Because I only had my phone on me, no wallet, no keys, nothing. Within the first month itself, the landlord told me that they will be deducting $250 from my security deposit on the account that the toilet was blocking up and the water seepage had passed on to the apartment downstairs. Even after my strictest disagreement, did not waive that deduction. Soon enough, one of these days, after coming back from school, the daughter of the landlord approached me saying that her mother had asked her to take down the air conditioning in my room because the electricity bill was too high. When I told them that I have an agreement, their mom saying that I only need to pay $50 as a flat price when I'm using the air conditioning, they said that this is their apartment and it doesn't work based on what agreement their mom signed. When I told them that they cannot enter my room, they started banging my door, enough to give anyone a heart attack. So I decided to go down to get some fresh air. When I came back to the apartment, I saw the daughter of the landlord sitting on the couch, and on seeing me, they said some outright disgusting racist abuses. The next day, I reported this incident to NYU campus safety and a few of my professors because that week I was late for a few of my assignments. And all of them had one similar opinion that this should be reported to the New York City Police Department. NYU campus safety even agreed to take me to the nearest police station because in their professional opinion, this accounted to assault. But I was of the point of view that I do not want to get the police involved because roommates have disagreement and they quarrel. Things really went south when the coronavirus pandemic hit and when I realized that the apartment was rent stabilized. At this point of time, I did not know what the rent stabilization meant and what were my rights and responsibilities. So as the first step, I researched about it and I came to know that landlords are not supposed to overcharge sub-tenants in a rent stabilized tenancy. I contacted the New York Division of Housing and Community Renewal to check if the apartment was really rent stabilized. The NYDHCR responds to me saying, yes, the apartment is rent stabilized and does fall under the provisions of the rent stabilization law. Once I moved to a more safe and secure new apartment, I sent my previous landlord a legal notice saying, here are the violations of the law that you have committed, and in good faith, I hope that you would refund me the extra overcharged amount. They replied to me with threats saying they'll sue me instead for things that I haven't done. At this point, I start reading case laws and figuring out what is the procedure. At this given juncture, my parents, along with my aunt and uncle, who are lawyers in India, they were strictly against me pursuing a legal recourse, understandably enough because I am an alien in this country without knowing anyone who's an attorney or comprehensive knowledge of the US laws and procedure. But at this point of time, I make a conscious decision, a decision to sue my landlord because it was no longer about the money anymore. It was about the principle that if I do not stand for what is right, then who would? So I finally sued my landlord as a pro se plaintiff, meaning someone without an attorney or self-represented in Civil Code of the New York City for the following violations. Violation 1 of the New York City Rent Stabilization Law, which prohibits landlords for overcharging subtenants in a rent stabilized tenancy. Violation 2 of the Warranty of Habitability of New York City, which suggests that it is the responsibility of the landlord to maintain a safe housing environment. And violation 3 of the lease agreement because of the deduction of $250 without any written bill. The landlord was served with the summon and complaint, and they chose to respond to the court. However, they did not mail me a response. Mailing an answer to the plaintiff is a legal obligation that I now understand. While all of this was happening, the New York governor signed an executive order 202.8 halting court hearings and tolling the time limits. This meant that the landlord did not have to suffice to the time limits mentioned in the law. While this was a welcome change for people suffering due to the pandemic, this also meant that there was a delay in justice being done. While I was dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's, one of my other friends at NYU, also an international student, reached out to me saying that their landlord was also harassing them. They had refused to refund their security deposit and instead asked for a hefty amount, saying if they did not clear the balance, they would report them to the police and make sure that they are deported. Sadly, this friend of mine chose to pay the landlord the hefty amount. Soon after a wait of few months, I did get my date in court, and even though the landlord began with choosing to deny the charges, by the end of it, they contested saying that they did not know the law. Given the examination of documentation, luckily or not, I proved my case prima facie, and a judgment was entered against my landlord and in my favor, awarding me the money that I had lost, the interest on it, and court fees. It wasn't about money anymore, because no monetary compensation could take away the pain and suffering that I had gone through, and during all those nights that I did not feel safe returning back to this apartment. But at least at the minimum, I will get the money that is my parents' hard-earned money, or the money that my parents got by putting our only home in India as a collateral against the student debt. In May of 2019, I had the opportunity of visiting Martin Luther King Jr. National Historic Site in Atlanta. Near the visitor center, there is a statue of Mahatma Gandhi, fondly known as India's father of nation. As it turns out, Dr. King was highly inspired by Mahatma Gandhi's ideology of non-violent civil disobedience, so much so that the statue of Mahatma Gandhi is permanently housed near Dr. King's grave. The question here is, would India be independent today without the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi? Or would US have equal rights for everyone, irrespective of race, without the leadership of Martin Luther King Jr.? While no one has the answer to that question, or the answer can be hypothetical at best, what I'm trying to communicate here is, no one's asking you to be Dr. King or Gandhi. All I'm trying to say is that in real life, unlike the real life, we cannot skip to the good part. In the US, we take the idea of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness very seriously. But one's exercise of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness should not alienate someone else's life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. The point I'm trying to stress here is it is not important what I did or how I did it. Yes, I sued my landlord and I did it without an attorney. But the idea is, why did I do it? What was the driving force behind it? As Steve Jobs said, you cannot connect the dots looking forward, but you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And you have to believe that in future the dots will connect. When I look back in time today, I can say that if I did not sue my landlord, maybe, just maybe, that landlord will still be overcharging and harassing students, most probably international students. It is important to know that all it takes to set the record straight is one human with courage and conscience, and that can be you. Thank you.